Let's talk a little sports. So currently there's a pending conversation between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets to essentially swap James Harden for Ben Simmons. I think it'll be an interesting trade. I don't know if James Harden will stay in Philadelphia long term. Keep in mind his deal in 2-3 years will pay him essentially $60 million a year. I don't think any team will take that deal to ask him to rework his deal. Um, but I don't know how he will help Joel Embiid. Obviously, he'll spread the floor, but there's guys there that already do that. Seth and Harris, and there's guys that already do that. And I don't know if Joel will want to take on another. Ben Simmons is a headache. James Harden is not a headache when it comes to Ben Simmons, but his lack of aggressiveness every night, I think, is a concern for each person over there. Philadelphia has a short window to win a championship. When you got a big man like Joel, it takes, it's only 2-3 years of him being at this level. He's playing MVP level basketball right now. So you don't want to bring in a guy that's going to stay for a year, stay for half a year, and then leave, and then basically you have nobody. You done traded Seth, you done traded Harris. So it's interesting if that happens, essentially a swap with Philadelphia, role players for a superstar in James Harden. I do think Philly is done with Ben Simmons. I think that experiment is over. It's going to be interesting if Ben Simmons will even come back to work. Keep in mind, this is a job. He's essentially saying he's not coming. So if you trade him, will the Nets be? You already have to deal with Kyrie playing 50% of the time, and KD is in and out because of injury. So now you have no James Harden, Kyrie 50% of the time, KD in and out because of injury, and now you have Ben Simmons who may or may not play. Also, even if he does play, how good is he? When you're at this level of competition, you can't take a year off, 7 months off, 8 months off. You're going to have some rust, specifically when he wasn't at top playing level when he was playing. When you have to work on your game, you have to work on your game in game. You can't say, I'm going to just get better in practice and get the confidence to shoot and, get the mental toughness to deal with the result. You have to do that during the game. So I don't think a lot of the teams don't want to deal with Ben Simmons. If a man cannot take criticism, that's not personal. They didn't talk about his looks. They didn't talk about his personal life. They said he has to get better for this team to win and compete for a championship. And this man is willing to lose $20 million over just criticism. And also, you have to know where the criticism is coming from. Doc Rivers is an old school coach. When he was in the league, guards shoot. That's all they did. The big men were designed to get boards, to play defense, get blocks, set screens. A few of the big men were allowed to shoot on the block. Obviously, your Hewins, your Hakeem Olajuwons. He's a guard. So if you're a guard and you ain't shooting, Doc Rivers will not understand that because he's come from a different era. But also, if you've been around guys like Phil Jackson, Larry Brown, the old school coaches, they'll criticize you out publicly because they want to let everyone knows that I know that he needs to get better, and I want him to know he needs to get better, and I want you all to know that he has to get better, and I'm tired of, in practice, you got to get better, yelling in practice. Let me yell publicly. Let me tell the media, yes, this guy has to get better. Go listen to some old Phil Jackson interviews. Go listen to he's essentially calling Shaq fat to his face. So, when you have, and, obviously the times are different. We understand mental health. We understand toughness. We understand not crossing the line. But what Doc Rivers did was not cross the line. He never disrespected him personally. He asked her the question, and it went into detail about, this guy has to get better. But the team had to get better. He wasn't just criticizing Ben Simmons. He criticized Joel Embiid before. He's criticized the bench guys, the role players. He said, I have to get better. So when you take it off of just one person and put it on the team and himself and include himself, Ben Simmons has to understand that this guy wants me to get better. And just imagine, you don't go to work and lose. Let's say, we regular people, you use your retail job. Oh, I don't like them. They said something about me. I have to do this better and do that better. I'm like, he is not in the right frame of mind to come back to work. I don't know if he's going to play for the Nets. And then furthermore, if the Nets re-sign him, how would him and KD work? Is Kyrie gonna stay? Is KD gonna stay? It's gonna have to be a conversation because the Nets built this team on a 3-year window, and this is year 3. I don't know if they're going to be able to win the championship. I doubt it. It's going to take a miracle. They're not going to win it this year. Let's say next year Kyrie comes back and plays every game. Let's say KD comes back and plays, obviously the games he can with, in and out of injury. Is Ben Simmons going to be that much better in the offseason? You're still going to need a bench. You're still going to need, some big men down low to get boards and play defense and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting. I think that trade needs to happen. I just don't know what team will benefit the most. You have two superstars. Well, star because Ben Simmons is not a superstar, but have issues. James Harden is not as aggressive as he was in Houston for whatever reason, personal, whatever. Whether he's concerned about playing with KD or whatever. I mean, he has flashes of greatness, flashes of what he was in Houston, but it's not the consistency. I remember when James Harden used to drop 40 points a night. You knew, and he'd do them stupid, step backs, which are travels, step back jumpers, and you like, okay, this man, he's shimmying on the 3-point line and shooting a 3 in your face. Like, those were the nights that we remember James Harden on a weekly basis, and that has not been the same. Obviously, he said he's unhappy, he wants out, but he wasn't aggressive last year. He wasn't aggressive early in the season when everyone was on the same playing field before injuries came, before the Kyrie situation. So it's going to be interesting. Let's talk about Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores will win his lawsuit, but it's going to be similar to the Colin Kaepernick thing. It's going to take a couple of years. The NFL is going to say, we're doing our best, and they're going to settle out of court. Say what you want about the NFL. The NFL does a great job at PR. And you look at the Spygate. Back in the day, the New England Patriots were essentially, we all knew that they were recording other teams' practices before Super Bowl, so they knew what plays would come and they knew how to defend those plays. And that went away. Their fine went away. You look at Deflategate, also with the Patriots and with Tom Brady. And obviously you look at other quarterbacks, Kurt Warner, other quarterbacks came out and said, this is not a new thing. The only difference is if a defender intercepts the ball and makes a complaint, then, you got to face the music. He ain't the only quarterback who either has smaller hands or can grip the ball better, or, you want your receivers to catch it, easier to deal with those things. So the NFL does a great job at, just, making things go away. Obviously, the Colin Kaepernick thing died down. He got paid. Everyone shut up. And, this is not just a race thing. A lot of entities have sued the NFL and silently won. Some of the older players have sued because of CTEs. When the players who are no longer played, they were either retired, and they say, I'm having CTE issues. There's a short list of symptoms that can be covered under the CTE medical guidelines. So the players are not getting their medical bills paid. They're not getting reimbursed. They're not getting taken care of. So they sued the league. And also the cheerleaders sued the league, obviously for, pay increases, stuff like that. Obviously sexual harassment, some of them. And a lot of the players, ex-players and current and ex-cheerleaders have been suing the NFL. And a lot of people do not know about this because the NFL does a great job at PR. It's amazing. Marketing and advertising is their specialty. So this will go away. They're going to put another rule in the Rooney Rule. They're going to put some more caveats in it and more incentives. They already have incentives to hire blacks, incentives to hire biracial, incentives to hire women, incentives to hire anything that falls under the minority guidelines. But, if a team doesn't want to hire, it is what it is. I personally think all these coaches should do the Deion Sanders route. Go to HBCUs. Look what Hugh Jackson is doing with Grambling State. Totally putting them on the map again. Deion Sanders is flipping recruits from big time colleges, SEC schools, and telling them you can play football anywhere and still make it to the NFL. You can play football anywhere and still follow your dreams. You can do anything you want. You want to do it at Alabama, you can do all that at Jackson State, at HBCU, at historic Grambling State. So I think these coaches should, realize that, we have a moment in history that these ex-NFL coaches and obviously ex-NFL superstar players like Deion Sanders are doing for HBCUs, and just take our talents there. We don't have to worry about arguing and fussing and fighting about them not hiring us, because they're going to hire us. We don't have to worry about all this other foolishness on, we got to do an interview, and if we're doing an interview, did they hire the white guy first, or did they hire the person they wanted first, or did they do the interview? It's foolish. Just go to HBCU and we'll be fine. Let's go there. Let's put some money in these schools. Let's help these young kids out. Because keep in mind, when you see HBCUs, not just football programs, those are funding other sports activities. They're funding the cities around the area, the housing. Everything is really changing when coaches like Deion Sanders and Hugh Jackson just coaches a football team. It really impacts the whole city. A lot of these schools are in underserved communities. So if you look at some HBCUs, they're literally in the ghetto. So, just some new funding, marketing, advertising will change more than just a sport, more than just a football game, more than just a history, but it would change the city, change some leadership over there. So I think they should go to HBCUs, and let's be done with the NFL. All right, y'all be safe. Peace.